Hello, everyone. Hi, Adam. How are you doing?
Hi,
Great.
Swell, how are you?
Welcome. Just fine. Welcome, everyone who's joining us today for our Applichat webinar on nurse recruitment. This is something we do every 2 or 3 weeks, and we're looking forward to our next topic today about job ads and job applications for RNs and making them more effective. So welcome, Adam. Like I said, Adam is our president of Applichat, and I am the chief operating officer at Applichat Healthcare. And at Applichat, we work with healthcare organizations in the US and Canada to recruit nurses. And we source nurses by focusing on passive nurse candidates and looking at them from outside of the job boards. So that's an important role that we play for our clients. And we also screen all of our applicants to make sure that they're qualified for our clients. So if you're interested in that, please send me a message in LinkedIn or in the chat, and I can tell you more about that. So as I mentioned, we host webinars 2 or 3 times a month, and typically these are on topics related to nurse recruitment and recruitment in healthcare generally. And today, our president, Adam, is going to share the 5 ways to simplify RN job applications. So nurses deserve speed, simplicity, and responsiveness in job application processes. And this, of course, helps employers get more applicants for their vacancies. So on that note, today, Adam is going to discuss exactly why your application process is important, what nurses want in an application process, the importance of speed, simplification, and responsiveness, and of course, those 5 ways to simplify RN job applications. So before we start, I'm going to post a link in the chat to my online business card. It has a variety of resources that may be of interest to you. First of all, we host a Nurse Recruitment Secrets Facebook group, and we invite you to join that to share and learn some great ideas about nurse recruitment. So if you click on the link in the chat, it's going to take you to my business card that has a number of links, including the Facebook group, also to sign up for our monthly newsletter called Nurse Recruitment Secrets as well. You can sign up for our future webinars that we host. And again, you can connect with me there on LinkedIn to learn more about Applichat Healthcare's nurse sourcing services. And so finally, for today's webinar, I want to mention that we're very interested in hearing your input. So please share any questions and tips in the chat anytime, and Adam will try and get to those during our conversation today. So on that note, Adam, I'm going to turn over to you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for being here. So I am gonna get started by sharing my presentation. And the reason we want to speak about this today is because it's so important to always think, who's the number one in the application process? Is it me as an employer, or is it them as the nurses? And in our opinion here at Applichat, you have to make it about the nurses. You have to make it simple, easy, preferably quick for them to apply, rather than make it simple, easy, quick for you, first of all. That shouldn't be the primary aim, because if you make it the easiest possible way for you, then that might come at an expense for the nurse. And whilst your process might be the slickest in the world, if a nurse doesn't want to apply, then it's not worth anything. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about, as Patrick said, why it's important, what nurses want, the importance of speed, and then the 5 ways. If you got to run, here are the 5 ways that I'm going to speak about. So take a screenshot of this, and I'm going to go through each of them point by point. So the reason why this is so important is whenever we're considering our application funnel, we really need to investigate step by step where candidates are dropping out. Because if we know that, we can start working to fix those problems segment by segment. And if we're able to fix those problems, then we're able to fix the overall problem of not being able to recruit enough nurses. So it's like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant in tiny chunks? Never eaten an elephant, so I wouldn't know, but let's take not being able to hire nurses as the biggest elephant in healthcare recruitment teams' zoo, and look a little bit about what you can do about it. So if hypothetically 2,000 nurses are clicking on your jobs each month, let's say 10% apply, you've got 200 applications, candidates will drop off along the way. If 30% of those applications are interviewed, 50% of the interviews are offered, 73% of the offers are hires, you would end up getting 22 hires. Now, what I want to stress today is the changes that you make at the top are the most important because they have the greatest impact on each step. That's for a couple of reasons. It's because they're early in the process and their effect compounds. I think Einstein said compound interest was the eighth wonder of the world. And if we're able to optimize the number that are dropping out at the very top, then we're going to get more hires at the bottom. Compared to if we're optimizing, first of all, our offer to hire ratio, that's going to affect a lower amount of candidates. So thinking hypothetically, if we got 2,000 clicks, 10% apply, 22 hires after the dropouts along the subsequent stages. If we can make that 20% apply, same percentages of dropouts in the subsequent stages, then we end up getting 44 hires. We get twice the amount of hires, which is a huge difference. So it's something that we really need to look at and look at it alongside the top level, which is how do we get nurses interested in our jobs advertising. So much effort is put on that, which is justified. It is the top of the funnel. But I think the next step, which is converting interested candidates into an actual solid application, is marginally less important, but more important than interview to offer, offer to hire. And it's having a great impact. If you multiply this out, if you're a big system and you have 20,000 clicks a month, then you're getting into hundreds of hires that could potentially be lost by having a poor application process. So I'm going to base some of my presentation around a little study that we did. We went into a popular nurse Facebook group and asked, I think there was 40,000 nurses in that group, asked the nurses, what's the number one thing you hate about applying to nursing jobs? And on this spreadsheet, we have 275 responses. If you want this sheet and the rest of our freebies, then just click on Patrick's link in the chat. It links to them all and they're free. So I've copied out the responses to the applications, and we're going to take a little bit of a look at what nurses are actually saying turns them off from a job application. So the first point and the most prominent really is how much time you're asking from the candidate. They're giving it away for free and also for the potential of getting a better job. If they're applying to multiple jobs, then that feeling of hope and satisfaction of knowing that you might get a job at the end of it kind of goes down a little bit. And the most in-demand candidates have a lot of options. So if they see an application form which is going to take forever on a day, then they might skip elsewhere to a different form. The nurses in our survey made this very clear. So the biggest sort of hate and the most spoken about amongst nurses really is having to repeat what's on the resume in a job application. You can see here that this survey is kind of overloaded with this point. And that really strikes at the heart of the matter, because if they've created a resume, they've allotted a couple of hours to that. If they need to go through and do an application, then they feel like they've already spent the time on doing this and putting this information on a piece of paper and giving it to you. You're asking for repetition, which is good for you because you get all those fields in your ATS. You can see them in the ATS. You can see the statistics in the ATS. Everything's neat and tidy and organized in your ATS, but it's ultimately making it a poorer experience for nurses and turning them away. A few of these were interesting, like why submit a resume if you're asking the same questions on the application? Fill out the application. Can you read my resume? Having a resume and then having to type all the stuff. So let's talk a little bit about why that's in place, because I think a lot of us know this. We know that nurses don't like it. And the reason it's in place is because of the systems that we're using. It's because we do need them in the ATS, but a lot of ATSs out there still are unable to take information from a resume, which is uploaded, and then put it into the system. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I just wanted to point out that this is a dilemma for recruitment teams. Um, you really need to make any application quick and easy. A good way to do that is to choose a system that is able to take a resume and then put its fields into your ATS. This point is more of an idea to keep in mind as you go through looking at your process. How can we make this initial application as quick and easy as possible? Because as I mentioned, nurses have a lot of options and they will bounce away if the application is going to take a lot of time. You can see here, like being asked to fill in complete employment history. If you've been a nurse for 10 years, 20 years, if you're an experienced nurse, which is what you want to hire, if you have to go and fill that in, then you're not going to have fun. So a few ways to just really streamline your application online is, number one, consider doing a split application where they initially can apply by uploading a resume or filling in a brief list of, say, 10 questions. That should take 2 or 3 minutes. And then they're in the system, then they're able to be connected with a hiring manager and move forward, and then getting them to do a more complete resume. We find that works. That's something that we do at Applichat for candidates that are interested in our help, and we see a very low drop off from people that start the application to don't finish the application. Also, we've seen that like ATSs that require someone to create an account often cause nurses to have to repeat things. So they have to go and put a name, a password, an email, and then they have to put their name, their email whenever they're starting the application. It slows things up for the nurse. So that's another point that we came across in this survey about dissatisfaction with this whole process. You can see here. So nurses don't like long applications, and they don't like having to repeat the resume, and they feel like they're wasting time if they do. The second point to make is you really need to consider optimizing your application for mobiles. And some of our clients, we've seen that this isn't the case because these processes are made on computers. You don't go onto your phone and make an application form. It's done on a computer. But a lot of candidates are actually applying through mobile. So while you might see on the computer, oh, this looks great, it's smooth as anything, really important to try it out on the phone as well to make sure that it is smooth with mobile. According to Traffic, that's automation software that you can connect with Indeed. 75% of Indeed's job search traffic comes from mobile devices. And employers who accept mobile applications receive up to 4 times as many applicants, which is absolutely huge. Think of what you could do with 4 times as many applicants from Indeed. Would you make 4 times as many hires from Indeed? Maybe. Optimize for mobile. If your application process isn't mobile friendly, then a good chunk of that 75% of Indeed job seekers are likely to drop off because it just doesn't give a good impression of your employer brand, of your organization, of what it's going to be like when they work there, what the technology is going to feel like in their hand on the board. It's important that what candidates' first experience with you, which is this job application, is slick and easy and sets them up to know that this is an organization that cares about nurses' experiences. One thing that I found when researching this is Indeed have a feature where you can accept what's called Indeed Apply. Again, this is something that we do, where instead of clicking a link and coming onto our website to go through our website application, they can apply on Indeed. It's mobile optimized. They get millions of applications a month. They know how to optimize it. Information's auto-filled from stuff they've put on the site. Resume often is put there as well. And it's a quick and easy way to get more applications through Indeed by making that process mobile friendly. If you spend 10 grand to get 200 applications using Indeed Apply, then you might get 4 times less, or 2 times less even would be bad if you're not doing that. The constant issue here is the ATS. How do we get them in the ATS? Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and say 2, 3, 4 times as many applications is worth it for me to have to outsource this to someone, pay someone junior to manually transfer candidates from Indeed into the ATS, or pay someone expert who's able to see who's qualified or not. That's what we do. So make it mobile friendly and check it on your mobiles, and consider using with your job board partners mobile applications, because candidates more and more are switching over to mobile. So I want to pull up a little quote here from one of our surveyed nurses. I really wish these hospital systems made it easier to apply to multiple unit specialties. Doesn't want to fill out the same application 15 times. The answers don't change. This is an issue that isn't really talked about, but I think it's something that subtly causes nurses not to apply to multiple positions. It's something that is actually an advantage of having an account creation on your ATS, because then they can go in and do that if the ATS supports it. But often the ATS doesn't have that, and you do have to go in and apply to each job uniquely. We've seen something work where you create a general opening that candidates who maybe aren't necessarily sure which position they're right for, or they could be right for multiple positions, can be directed to. It's listed as like, say, for example, multiple locations, multiple specialties, multiple shifts, general, ad and job description, little blurb about the organization, and then they can apply to that. What that does is that then gets routed to one of the recruiters, who can then share it with the appropriate hiring manager. That application can be shared with multiple hiring managers, and we've found that that works pretty well with multi-facility or multi-unit hospitals that have a lot of units and hiring managers involved, where you can spread that application about without having to get the nurse to manually go in and spread it themselves. Creating a general opening that miscellaneous candidates can be directed to. Next, to make this simple for you and engaging for a nurse is to have automation involved in the application process. So whenever someone applies, you want them to start receiving texts and emails that are relevant to the stage they're at. So if someone would apply, say, you can set it up like this. If someone would apply between the hours of 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., send them an automatic text 10 minutes later, thanking them for their application and letting them know when you'll be in touch. Send them an email with links to employer brand related videos that will get them excited for the future they have in the interview process. Send them an email the next day with an update on the application, or simply saying, while you wait for us to review this, here's a video of our CNO explaining how she came into the organization. Each application should ideally trigger not just an email saying we've received your application, but a series of texts and emails that get them excited, keep them engaged, remind them why they applied, and actually push them further down the application funnel. You can set this up if you have an ATS that supports emails or texts, or you can use software websites. You might not be familiar with them. There's one called Zapier, Zapier. You can look up something called Sense, Sense, or just send Patrick or I a message and we can look at what you need and investigate if there's any solution we could connect you to. But automation is important because it saves your recruiters time and therefore your department money. And it also gives nurses that smooth and engaging experience that your competitors probably aren't doing. It helps set you ahead, and it's something that you should be looking into whenever you look at your application process. So final point number 5 would be choosing the right tech. So the points that I've mentioned, you can't really do these alone. So if you have an ATS, if you have a 12-month contract, it was signed 3 months ago, it's going to be tricky for you to make these changes. It's going to be tricky for you to redraw their application form, change how their system is optimized for mobile, or even maybe create a general opening. It's going to be tricky. If you think about the start, I mentioned how the top of the funnel is so important. And I believe that the technology you use is the true top of the funnel for your application process. It's the root of the tree that grows, and you need to have strong roots to have a strong tree. So it's really important to, whenever you're looking at an ATS to use, think about not only the price or the ease of use, but how will a nurse apply to one of my jobs posted through this ATS? Ask the vendor to walk you through that step. Ask them if they have any statistics on the drop off from clicking on and opening a job description page to applying. And ask them these things that I've spoken about. Ask them if they have automation that can follow up to candidates. Ask them if there's the ability to create a general opening, what it looks like on a mobile application, and then how quick can a nurse apply. These are questions that will help you decide not only if you're using the right ATS for you, but also the right ATS for the nurses that you want to hire. Also, it's hard to bundle the complete group of optimizations you can make into an ATS. So the ATSs are set up by companies to achieve a certain aim. And while some of them are customizable, which is great, often there's extra parts that you might need to add in. And the only people that can help you would be the IT or other departments involved in marketing or software within your organization. Even if it isn't going directly into the ATS, the improvement should really be getting more applications, making it easier for nurses rather than making the ATS an easier ride for the team. Both should obviously happen, but I think if the team need more hires, the most important thing is getting more applications in the door. So for example, we would, let's see, yeah, we would see that some of the automation we have used, some of the text sequences that we set up wouldn't be from an ATS, they're from a marketing software that's connected to the ATS, and you might need to bring in additional people from different departments that aren't talent acquisition to help with that. But I can't really stress this enough that this really is a big defining factor. The nurses aren't really speaking about this because that's not the side of things, that's not the way that they look at things. So I know if we did this survey to talent acquisition teams and said, why can't you make what the nurses are saying happen, then the ATS is going to be a big reason. So that's why it's important to ask the right questions and choose the right ATS. Also acknowledge that 10% of respondents said it was about the application. It's not a huge amount, and if you get the full list, you can see that there are other issues here that you could potentially work on and look at. Also, it was a bit of a negative question, so we're trying to pull out negative responses. So, in summary for now, what we want to do is make it easy for them to apply. And if it's easy, it's going to be quick. Capture the key information and then give them their time back. Think of it like you're borrowing their time. It's not like you own it because you're an employer and you're giving a job. You need to think, why do I deserve the time of this candidate? How can I make it quick and easy for them to get started with me? Optimize the application for mobile. You saw that 75% of people visiting to Indeed are doing so on mobile. Make sure that whatever you have has been tested on a mobile and works. Create a general opening that candidates can apply to so they don't have to have multiple applications to multiple positions. Utilize automation which is out there. Look into triggering emails and text depending on what a candidate has done. And then choose the right tech. So your ATS is going to be the roots, which provide you with the application form, provide you with the mobile optimization, provide you with the ability to create job recs. So make sure that you're asking questions around the candidate experience, like the ones I suggested, whenever you're getting a new one for your team, rather than just prioritizing budget or experience for you internally as a department. I have a few additional points I'm going to share before we go. So I spoke with Richard, who is the CEO of Staff Up app. So he's created an application. It's like a white label application, you would call it, where staffing agencies go in and are able to create not web apps, phone apps for their agencies that nurses can apply to, or construction workers or whatever. And I think his suggestions are really at the cutting edge because he's a tech provider and his clients are staffing agencies that often really do things the best. I'm going to put his ideas around this in the chat so you can all see them. Are they? Oh, it's split up into multiple messages. I think maybe we could just read them out, Patrick. Let me see.
Sure, we can put them on the screen as well. I'll put the first one up there.
Yeah.
So number one, create a great first impression and differentiate your brand. That can be as simple as replying super fast to a new application or sending a quick thank you email. Right. Okay. And feel free, anyone has comments, put them in the chat as well. And then number two goes on to say, find ways to keep candidates in the loop on the status of their applications so they aren't left in the dark. Even better if this can be streamlined and automated. Number three, optimize your onboarding forms to eliminate errors, whether it's in the initial application or when filling out onboarding documents, making sure candidates can only enter properly formatted emails, phone numbers, social security numbers, and so on. That will save you and your candidate time and headaches down the road, for sure. And update your onboarding process or find a tech solution that does this. The return is worth it. That all makes lots of sense.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Sure.
I think number two, especially about keeping them in the loop, is so important. We get texts often of nurses asking what's going on with their application. And it's the difference between them giving up and going somewhere else and accepting another offer or holding out for your offer.
It's really discouraging when we bring applicants to healthcare organizations and then they say, well, no one ever called me, right? So, and we know there's reasons why that happens sometimes in-house and things get lost or the system is a bit overwhelming, but for sure we want to do everything we can to keep those excited nurses excited about the opportunity.
Yeah.
The other observation as you were speaking, Adam, is a lot of it comes down to creativity of the teams, I think, too, right? Like even around the ATS, talking to some of our clients who say, you know, our system, we're in a big system, they have to apply through our ATS. So if we bring them an applicant, they often ask the question, well, how do we get them into our ATS? And then sometimes they will say, okay, we will figure it out. We will either get them entered in ourselves, or we will, if they need to create an account, we'll walk them through that after we have an interview with them and if we know we want to work with them. So they're finding creative ways to do it, and it's those creative approaches that seem to be the most successful from the clients, among the clients we work with.
Yeah. It's like that by hook or by crook, we will get them in mindset that seems to be working the best.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to follow up, we have Patrick's link here and you can get that sheet that I shared.
Yeah, I'll put that back in the chat again too. Great, thank you.
Is there any parting comments that you would have, Patrick?
Well, in general, just to remind people, yeah, please do connect and sign up for future webinars. We always have interesting topics and interesting guests often join us. So we hope there's always going to be something that will be of interest to folks. So if you register with us, we'll get you the notifications about upcoming webinars. And yeah, check out our Facebook group, our newsletter, and hope that there's going to be some resources and some good connections for you there. And I see one person who joined today already booked a demo with me about our services. So thanks to that person for signing up. And if others are interested, again, at that link, you can do the same as well to find time to meet with me. That's it.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. I'm going to put the link to the slides in the chat if anyone wants to grab them before we go. And look out for our next webinar. Follow our page on LinkedIn, and we'll have one in 2 or 3 weeks.
Perfect.
So yeah, thanks for coming.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
See you later.
Take care.